India's entire connection to its northeast hangs by a thread just 22 kilometers wide. For decades, global military strategists have looked at this narrow bottleneck, the famous Siliguri Corridor or the chicken's neck, and asked a simple question. What happens if an external superpower like China snaps it? But this classic geopolitical framing misses a much closer, far more profound reality. What if the real arbiter of this chokehold isn't a distant northern superpower? What if Bangladesh holds the shears? By understanding and quietly weaponizing the unique vulnerability of the Siliguri Corridor, Dhaka is no longer just a smaller neighbor resting in India's geographic shadow. It is transforming into something else entirely, the ultimate regional gatekeeper. Today, we are diving deep into a masterclass of asymmetric geography. We will explore how this single, precarious bottleneck has become Bangladesh's premier diplomatic bargaining chip, redefining power dynamics in South Asia and giving a smaller nation unprecedented leverage over a rising global superpower. To truly understand this power play, we have to look closely at the sheer absurdity of the regional map. Look at India's northeast. Geographically, these seven sister states are virtually an island, cut off from the economic heartland of mainland India. They share roughly 99% of their borders with international neighbors like China, Myanmar, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. They are connected to the rest of India by a single, fragile umbilical cord, the Siliguri Corridor. For New Delhi, supplying this vast region through that narrow 22-kilometer strip is a logistical nightmare. It forces Indian transport networks to undertake a massive, expensive detour around the massive landmass of Bangladesh. This physical reality creates an undeniable, permanent truth. India's northeast relies fundamentally on Bangladeshi territory for cost-effective logistics, trade, and long-term economic survival. When you look at it through this lens, the map stops being just lines on paper and becomes a live theater of strategic dependency. The current geography forces New Delhi into a corner. It means that no matter how powerful India grows on the global stage, it cannot view Dhaka as just another developing neighbor. In the eyes of Indian defense and economic planners, Bangladesh is a mandatory security partner. Without Dhaka's active cooperation, the entire northeast region risks slow economic isolation and unsustainable logistical costs. This brings us to the core of Dhaka's current leverage, the power of transit. Over recent years and crystallizing clearly in 2026, the operational status of the Chittagong and Mongla port agreements has fundamentally shifted the balance of regional trade. By granting India access to these deep-water maritime hubs, Bangladesh has effectively offered the seven sister states their shortest, cheapest, and most efficient gateway to the global ocean. Tripura, for instance, sits just a few dozen kilometers from the Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh, yet it used to rely on goods traveling thousands of kilometers from western Indian ports. India has tried hard to find a way around this. For over a decade, New Delhi heavily poured capital into the Kaladan multimodal transit transport project through Myanmar. The goal was simple: bypass Bangladesh entirely by using Myanmar's Sitwe port and river networks to reach Mizoram. But the economic and security calculus of the Kaladan project has proven to be an unstable, wildly expensive alternative. Internal instability, civil conflict, and treacherous terrain in Myanmar have repeatedly stalled the project, turning it into a geopolitical money pit. This failure elevates Bangladesh's position immensely. Dhaka possesses the rare strategic luxury of transforming basic transit rights from a dry, technical service into a high-stakes diplomatic lever. These access rights are not set in stone. They are mechanisms that can be subtly tightened or loosened based on the prevailing political climate. If relations strain, administrative delays at borders can miraculously slow down Indian supply lines. If relations prosper, the corridors open smoothly. It is a masterful, quiet display of geographic dominance. But geography isn't just about roads and rail. It's also about the vital element of water. And this is where Bangladesh connects the physical security of the Siliguri Corridor directly to a matter of survival. The long-delayed Teesta River water-sharing negotiations. Bangladesh is a riverine nation sitting downstream at the bottom of the world's largest delta. It shares a staggering 54 transboundary rivers with India. For years, India's upstream construction of barrages and dams has given New Delhi immense control over the flow of these vital lifelines, frequently leaving Bangladeshi farmers facing severe water shortages during the dry season while suffering from artificial floods during the monsoons. Dhaka has realized that appealing to pure global goodwill rarely yields results in hard-nosed geopolitics. Instead, it uses its crucial geographic cooperation over transit as a powerful counterweight to India's upstream advantage. The strategic calculus is becoming explicitly clear. If New Delhi wants smooth, unhindered physical road and rail access through Bangladesh to move its goods and security personnel to the Seven Sisters, it must ensure an equitable flow of water down the Teesta and other shared rivers. By linking these two completely different domains, physical transit for water equity, Dhaka successfully levels an otherwise highly unequal playing field. To truly understand the depth of India's anxiety, we have to look at the security architecture of the region. The ultimate nightmare for Indian defense planners has always been a scenario where the chicken's neck is severed during a conflict, completely isolating millions of citizens and tens of thousands of forward-deployed troops in the northeast. In this delicate equation, Bangladesh serves as the absolute buffer against widespread regional insurgency. The Seven Sister States have a long, complex history of ethnic fractures and active insurgent movements seeking autonomy or independence from New Delhi. Historically, these rebel groups routinely used the dense forests of the porous Indo-Bangladeshi border to launch ambushes and then slip away into safe havens. Dhaka holds immense leverage here based entirely on its willingness to act. By launching coordinated security crackdowns, Bangladesh can completely dismantle these cross-border sanctuaries, handing New Delhi a major counterinsurgency victory. Conversely, by simply reducing its vigilance or frustrating Indian security requests, Dhaka can let these internal security pressures build back up inside India's borders. Furthermore, this security relationship completely dictates India's grand geopolitical ambitions. New Delhi's highly publicized Act East policy, its long-term economic strategy to link its domestic economy directly to the booming markets of Southeast Asia via Myanmar and Thailand, is physically impossible to execute efficiently without a stable, deeply cooperative relationship with the administration in Dhaka. Bangladesh sits squarely in the middle of India's path to the east. It is the bridge India must cross to become a true Pan-Asian power. As we look toward the horizon, the era of Bangladesh offering transit concessions out of pure neighborly solidarity is officially over. We are witnessing a clear permanent shift toward a sophisticated quid pro quo diplomacy model. Moving forward, every single logistical concession Dhaka grants, whether it's a new railway transit line, an extra highway link, or expanded use of its seaports, is being explicitly tied to a direct, tangible trade or resource gain. This could mean demanding the elimination of non-tariff barriers that harm Bangladeshi exports, securing duty-free access to Indian markets, or gaining concrete concessions on border security. At the same time, massive infrastructure projects are cementing Bangladesh's status as the undisputed central hub of Bay of Bengal connectivity. Dhaka is actively diversifying its partnerships, drawing in infrastructure investments from Malaysia, Turkey, Japan, China, the EU, and the US alike. By constructing deep-sea ports, expanding regional energy grids, and opening trade corridors for landlocked Nepal and Bhutan, Bangladesh is making itself completely indispensable to the entire economic fabric of the region. This multi-alignment strategy ensures that Bangladesh maintains its crucial strategic edge. By keeping its transit assets firmly under sovereign control and maintaining a balanced, diversified foreign policy, Dhaka ensures that its relationship with New Delhi remains a partnership of mutual respect and equal necessity, rather than a master and subordinate dynamic with a regional superpower. As this high-stakes geographic chess match plays out, the future of South Asian geopolitics will likely split into one of three distinct paths. Scenario 1, the cooperative corridor. India recognizes its permanent dependency and fully concedes to Bangladesh's demands, granting equitable water rights, major trade concessions, and fair border policies to guarantee permanent, smooth transit to its northeast. Scenario 2, the strategic friction. Political shifts create gridlock. Dhaka begins to quietly squeeze transit timelines and security cooperation, forcing India to spend billions on inefficient alternatives while facing renewed instability in the Seven Sisters. Scenario 3, the multipolar pivot. Bangladesh leverages its unique position to bring external players like Japan and regional neighbors like Nepal and Bhutan into a larger multi-nation trade transit zone, effectively diluting India's unilateral influence in the Bay of Bengal. This leaves us with a fascinating, critical question. Can a smaller nation's brilliant use of geography permanently hold a rising nuclear superpower accountable, or will sheer economic asymmetry eventually force Dhaka to yield its leverage? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. We read every single one. Before you go, if you value deep-dive, source-based geopolitical analyses that cut through mainstream media noise, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. Thank you for watching and see you in the next documentary.